Okay. Mic check. Chelsea, tell me if you see it on your end.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
I see it on my end.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Eventful Life TV. I'm your host, Janelle Boyd, and I'm so happy to be back with you guys this week. As you know, I love to bring you real women. We're talking about real change, and we're just here getting real with you guys. The Eventful Life is all about mompreneurs, women in business who are sharing authentically about their ups and downs, the things that they come up against. You know, we all have trials and tribulations, but how they're showing up as their full selves. So if you're a woman in business, if you're a mompreneur out there, and you love what you see, continue to join us, continue to follow along each week, but also share. Sharing is caring, y'all. So share it with another woman in business, share it with another mompreneur who you know needs this in their life. And then, of course, don't forget to go and subscribe, okay, over at YouTube at the Eventful Life TV. So, guys, I'm so excited to be back with you this week, and I have another phenomenal woman in business. She is a mompreneur as well. And y'all, I have to just say it, she's dope. Like, she is on fire, okay? I don't know when she sleeps. I don't know if she does, but I know she has a cape hanging up somewhere in the background there because she is killing it. So I'm so excited to have Chelsea, who is the owner of Studio 52 and also just recently the owner of Niko's Gelato. So Chelsea, welcome, girl.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you are so welcome. I'm so glad that you took the time out to be here with me. So thank you for saying yes, because I know that we mompreneurs, we women in business, we got a million things going on, but the fact that you're here, I'm really glad to have you. So listen, I think I want to say, well, we talked about it a little bit, but I want to say it was like 3 years ago that we actually met. And I just fell in love with you and your husband, Drew. I met you both, and I was like, oh my God, they are amazing. They are a beautiful couple. Y'all are beautiful inside and out. I was like, we're going to be friends. So. Yes, and here we are, fast forward, here we are. I've been able to watch you guys' journey as you have, been embarking on Studio 52, and then now Niko's Gelato. And I just really want to share your story with our audience because it is really an amazing story. And, we're talking about today, guys, we're talking about quitting's not in my DNA. And let me just tell you, okay, I actually pulled that title. So Chelsea, I don't know if I told you, I actually pulled that title from something you wrote because I was like, this girl is bad. I'm like, she's like, listen, I know that this has been a rough year. I know that I've had some ups and downs. I've fallen, but I've gotten back up. But she was like, but y'all, quitting is not in my DNA. And I was like, yes. That is what I'm talking about. And I feel like it's so timely, Chelsea, because here we are, in the midst of Black History Month. And, while yes, every February we have Black History Month, and really honestly, we should celebrate Black history all year round. But one of the things that we can honestly say is that quitting is just not in our DNA. Like, we continue to show up, So I was like, this is it. Like, this is the
title. I actually love that you named it as that, because a lot of people have been asking me, like, how are you doing this during the pandemic? How are you staying so positive? How are you getting up every morning and just like working and like getting it done? And I'm like, well, like, quitting really isn't an option. Like, It's not for me. And, because we have a brick and mortar business, so many people in our industry are shutting their doors and they're stopping, so many, not only venues, but event planners are like, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm getting out. And it's like, for us, it's like we have so much that we put in, so much like blood, sweat, and tears. Like we got to figure it out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think whatever you face, obviously we all have, and that's what we're about to jump into here, but whatever you're facing that's in front of you, whatever mountain that is, I think that there does come a moment where you have to just say, quitting's not an option for me, not if it's something that you just know that you were destined to do, or like you said, you've invested your blood, sweat, and tears. It's like, is that really an option right now? And historically, like I said, we've proven that it's just wasn't an option for us, So let's go back though. Let's take it a step back, because I want the audience to really get to know you and understand that Niko's was not your first, and probably won't be your last. I know how we entrepreneurs are, okay? But tell us kind of, where you started with Studio 52, or even before that, and kind of lead us up to how you got to Niko's.
I started my first business about 11, 12 years ago when I was still in college. And I knew that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to own my own business. I have seen how hard my parents worked over the years during my childhood. And I was like, I want to do this differently. I want to have more time freedom. I want to be able to take a vacation when I want to. I don't want to be tied to a job. So I figured that when I was, I think, a junior in college, like, I got to actually test this out, because it's not going to fly if I just like drop out and say, I'm going to start a business. That's not going to fly.
How many times have we done that though? Lord, we jump out there. We're like, okay, I'm going to do this business. It's like,
yeah. Like I needed to have some assurances so I could like, smooth it over with my parents. So I started this like small little business, and I really just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and I knew what I was getting into, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And it went really well. I had a good time. I made all the money back that I put into it, so I never lost money. And I loved every single challenge. Like it might sound crazy to some people, because as entrepreneurs, we often hear no, probably more than we hear yes. Absolutely. And we get a lot of doors slammed in our faces, but I love that. I love the challenge of having to think on my feet, having to learn how to sell, just being creative with marketing. Like it fueled me. I had an adrenaline rush.
I love that.
I knew it was for me. I just didn't know what industry I would fall into, but I was like, this is what I want to do.
And I love that you said fall into, right? Because I'm like, I say all the time, like that the event industry found me. I was like, I just fell into it. It wasn't what I was looking to do, So I love the fact that you used that terminology too. Like I just fell into it, like, But that's also the magic and the beauty of it is when you aren't really like hard pressed to find it, but it just organically happens, So I love that part too.
That's truly been kind of like the story of my journey with entrepreneurship. And when it came to Studio 52, I've never worked in the event industry before we started that business, my husband and I. But he is a photographer. He had just a beautiful studio when we first started dating, and he lived and worked out of that space. He would get people coming by all the time to do photo shoots, and they would say, oh, I want to have my 35th birthday here. I want to have this here. I want to have that. And he's like, no, this is my home.
At my home?
At my home. Like, and this was around the time where like people were renting out Airbnbs for all this different stuff. There wasn't a lot of like, there were a lot more traditional event venues at the time. And I think now there's more like Airbnbs and other co-working spaces that rent out for events. This is back in the day where it was still very traditional. You either went to a ballroom or you had like this place. There wasn't anything else. So after just saying no a couple times, we had one client come in and they're like, I want to have my Christmas party here. I'm going to pay $4,000 for 4 hours. And, I want to do this. And, Drew and I looked at each other. We're
like, if this is a thing, right?
Like, is this like normal? Like, okay, it's $4,000. Like, let's figure out how to make this work.
We make this happen.
So we moved everything out of the space, tucked, personal belongings away, and we had the event. It was so much fun. It went really smoothly. And then we're like, like maybe we could potentially do this.
Right.
And we listed his loft, you know, on, I think there was like Eventful there. That site was just starting out at the time.
Oh my gosh. So
like,
you actually put his loft on a like site that lists venues to be rented out.
Yes. So I did that. And I think I also started a Yelp page for him. And I was like, let's just see what happens. I was thinking like we'd get like maybe one inquiry, maybe a couple, but I remember after 2 weeks, we had like 45 inquiries. And I was like, this is like a thing.
OMG.
This could be a business. And I had no idea like what I was really getting into, because I had my own business at the time. He had his photography.
Right.
And here we were not really knowing what we had stumbled upon.
That is so awesome. I love the organic nature of it. And I love the fact that you guys are both just like, okay, like, let's just try this out and see what happens.
Yeah, which is why we were like so nervous when we first met you. We're like, she's going to come in our space. She's going to be like, this is wrong. Y'all are not doing that right. Because we're just like learning on the go. Like YouTube has taught us so much.
Right. Listen, but I think that is most entrepreneurs at some phase, right? Like, let's just be real. I even though some of us will go get education and of course we're gonna, do our due diligence and do the research and things like that. A lot of times when you're coming into this journey, you don't know. Like, and I'm so glad that we're finally getting to a place where it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll go figure it out, and I'll make sure that I do know, but I don't know, because I think that we've all had that moment, we're just like, look, it's a really great idea. I know that I would be good at it. Like, I know that I would kick butt, and but I don't have all the details just as of yet, right? And I just feel like that's a lot of that is how life has taught us as well. Is like, you're not going to always have it all figured out. You're not going to always have all the details. So just go do it.
And you just fail forward. You fail as you do it. And luckily for us, because we're, we are an event venue, we work with one client at a time. It's not like a restaurant where you have hundreds of people coming in, over the span of a weekend. For us, it's a very personal process. So we're able to be very hands-on. And if there's a problem, we can handle it right then and not get a bad Yelp review. So our clients didn't know any different. They're like, wow, they're really great. They're really hands-on and like, they're awesome. So for us, it's been just a wonderful, wonderful process.
That's so good. That's so good. And I'm sure you guys have learned as you have gone along, you learn things, which leads me to, how Niko got started, right? Because I'm like, here you guys are, you're, doing your thing with Studio 52. I mean, I saw how you guys got started, and then all of a sudden, like, you were booked. Like, Studio 52 was booked like every week, every weekend. It became like the hot spot to like have little intimate gatherings and stuff, and intimate events. Because the other thing that I love that you guys do is you're not you're very open, right? So you guys never made people feel like, okay, you can't do, like, you didn't have like all these boxes you had to check, like, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, and I think that is something that, it speaks volumes about you guys as, business owners and as a venue owner, that you allow people to come in and create what they're looking for, like, I want you to come in and make it your own. So it's very welcoming, very inviting, but, because of that, obviously, then everybody wants you. So.
And we really started off as like having like a very creative vibe to our space, because our first location and Drew's old loft, I mean, it was a creative space. We worked with a lot of different artists. We were open because, of course, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we're like, what do you envision here? Let's try to make it possible. You can't hang off the ceiling, but I mean, if you want to do something else, we'll try our best.
Don't blow anything up, but
yes, no spray paint, but we can probably make just about anything work.
I love that. So you guys are, you're going along, business is good, things are booming, and then enter pandemic, enter COVID. So tell us about that. Like, how did that impact? Because obviously, I feel like here's where a lot of our audience can probably identify with you guys, where they're like, okay, they had all these plans, things were going well, they living their best life, and boom, here we go.
Yeah, so it was really it took the wind out of our sails because we opened our current location that we have in Ivy City, Northeast DC, in
Right,
2015.
right.
So we moved into this neighborhood when it was like very raw. They're very much still developing it. It was a little scary at times.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, they were literally
A little
still like,
sketchy. You don't want to go out after a certain time.
yes, yes. And quick funny story. So we literally just opened like November 2015, and we get a phone call, and the property manager is like, "I'm so sorry." We're like, "What are you apologizing?" It's, "Oh, I'm so sorry. There are like some women outside your studio, and they're scantily clad, like they're prostitutes."
Oh,
And they were and we're like, it's okay, like neighborhoods turning over, but we didn't have a block on our Wi-Fi, we didn't have a password, so they were in front of our space using the Wi-Fi. And they were like, "Oh, we're sorry this is happening," just to give people an idea of like how the neighborhood was.
oh my
So
gosh. I'd have been like, say what?
we thought it was so funny. I mean, it's kind of like being in the meatpacking district of New York. Like it's just, it's just how it is over here. We have a lot of
Right.
breweries and distilleries. It's a very industrial area.
Which
So
I love it. I love it, because I remember how it was versus how it has, has transitioned. So I thought that was a beautiful thing. I love seeing cutting edge spaces starting to, or areas starting to kind of transition.
yeah, so we're really here like at the beginning of this neighborhood. And then when COVID hit, I felt like there were so many more people coming to our area. There's now a grocery store, there's a
Hmm.
yoga place next door, there is like the Lane, which is a social club in the center, and we're getting like more families and foot traffic. Like finally the neighborhood is
Yes,
like,
you're like,
we're
here we go.
here.
We've been waiting.
Here. Yeah. So we were ready to even have even more events and to be able to open our space up to non-private events and just kind of have our own thing.
Mm.
So when COVID hit, it was really hard because we felt like we were kind of on the precipice of being able to just take our business to the next level.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. And guys, how many of you can like identify with that? Like just being like right there and you see it, you can smell it, you can taste it. You're like, here we go. Because a lot of times we see the vision before the vision actually comes to fruition, right? Like I always tell people by the time something has manifested, like there's so much that's already occurred, right? Like by the time something becomes the hot thing, there's a lot more that has transpired before it became the hot thing. So that's kind of where you guys were. And then what happened after that, Chelsea? Like, how did you even, first and foremost, let's just talk about, I want to get a little vulnerable because let's just talk about the devastation of that, right? I think, and again, this is where I think we don't want to acknowledge how things make us feel. Doesn't mean that we are weak or not strong, anything like that. But we all have those moments where we're just like, like you said, this just took the wind out of my sail. Like this just sucks, you know.
Yeah.
And so, talk about like how did that make you guys feel, and how did you kind of gather yourself to be like, okay, what now?
So when we first started like hearing like COVID, I think that was the end of January. No
Yeah.
one really knew what it was or how it would affect events. We actually had people like still trying to come in and book like weddings, like when it was still first happening. And I think that because we didn't know how it was really going to impact the event industry, we were thinking, all right, we're going to be shut down for a month, and then after a month, we're going to open right back up.
Right. Like most of
And
us thought.
like most of us thought, like we were just following the mayor's advice, like, okay, we're going to take this month and we're going to shut down, and then we get to open back up in April. And then it became, okay, no, we're going to stay closed down, and then we'll be allowed to reopen in June. And so we were in this like period of push pull, still having hope, still rescheduling like weddings and birthday parties, and just not knowing. I think the uncertainty was so hard because we couldn't plan for the future. We couldn't take any bookings because we had no idea like when the city would actually allow us to reopen. And I think that's been the hardest part about COVID, because the event industry is so unique. So when you have the mayor specifically saying like, restaurants can do this. Oh, but your events can't do that.
Right.
That's been the hardest part for us, because everyone sees like restaurants are reopened now and they're like, oh, I can have my event here. I'm like, no, because
we're still mandated not to have gatherings, that's essentially what it is. Like, oh, all you people who like to gather, like, no.
They're like, no events, nightclubs, like, nope, you gotta stay shut down. So it's been so hard, like trying to like know what we're going to do. Like there is no planning, which is so inherent to our industry. We thrive on plans,
on planning
on planning like 3-4 months in advance. Like we know what's happening, and now we don't even know.
No, that is so true. I can just even remember from my just from my purview, when things are happening, I was in the middle of transitioning, my whole entire business and a new market. I had all these, like you said, we're planners. Like I had all these plans. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna hit the ground running. I'm gonna market this. I'm gonna go here. I've researched the different places that I want to go and like meet people. And then enter COVID, and it's like, nah.
Yes, it's like hard stop.
Right. It was like pause. Like, no, you're gonna be home. It's so you're right, it is it was a huge pill to swallow, and it did just leave kind of this feeling of the unknown, or what, how to move, what to move, and things like that. So where did the idea for Niko spark? Like how did you finally kind of get out of this? Because I feel like we all had to get out of this funk, right? Like, okay, first of all, let's mourn our plans because those are not happening. And now let's, pivot and shift and do what we got to do, because we don't know. But what we do know is that we can be doing something. And so I feel like that we all had to kind of go through this process, no matter what we were doing at that time. So how did you guys kind of find yourselves, shifting into that next, like, okay, maybe this?
So I'm a very, very spiritual person. I practice yoga, I meditate every day.
Yes,
and
which I love.
About 1 month before we got shut down, like literally the first week of February, exactly 1 year ago, I remember standing in our venue. We were prepping for an event, and we had so many people walking by because they increased foot traffic, and they're all like peering in through our windows. And they were trying to open the door because they thought we were a bar, because we were on so many distilleries, and they were trying to come in. And we're like, no, we have a private event. Like we're not open to the public. And then I was like, we should do something where we can be open to the public. And I wonder what that would be. And at the time I had no idea, like COVID wasn't even a thing at that point in time. So I'm like thinking like, what can we do? How can we open? Like we got to have a draw to bring people into the neighborhood. So I'm like meditating on it, and I hear gelato. And I'm like, that's a good idea because there's nothing in the neighborhood.
Thank you, universe.
Yeah, I was like, universe, that's an amazing idea. Like there's nothing in this venue. There's nothing in this area where you can just pop in and get desserts, because you either have restaurants or you have breweries. Like there's no place that you can do that. So that would be great. And I could now open up Monday through Friday, and we can have gelato, and maybe in between events on Saturday, we can, sell some scoops. So
literally just from that thought, you were like, okay, this could be a thing. Like there wasn't anything that was like, well, that sounds crazy, or what do you mean? Like literally from that thought, you were like, okay, we could do this.
Yeah, because the foot traffic was so crazy that like on a random Tuesday night, we had people like trying to come into the space and we were closed. So because there were so many more people in the neighborhood, I'm like, I can be making money when I don't have an event. And that
Right,
was
right.
something that we were never able to do before because of how we had set up our space and just how the neighborhood was. There was like never
Sure.
anyone there
Right.
before. And now we had an abundance of people, qualified
There are
buyers.
people here now.
Yeah, there are people here now. So I ran the idea by my husband, and he was like, that's great. You know, we can even have it during the events too. Like, this is a great add-on to what we're already doing.
Where did the thought of gelato come from? Like, I've always been curious, like, where did she get gelato? Like, why not ice cream, or why not yogurt? Like, where gelato specifically come from?
because that's what God told me to do. Like, it literally popped into
Wow.
my head, and it was like gelato. Like
Wow.
when I meditate, I feel information. I
Yeah.
hear things, and I know it's not my voice. It's not like my idea. It just kind of
Mhm.
pops into my head like that, and I know that's like a divine thought. So
Oh,
that's what
that's so
happened, and it was
good.
like gelato. I was like, okay, because that's not something I would have come up with on my own. I would have been like,
Right.
let's do some croissants, let's do some cookies, let's do
Right.
some coffee. Like, that's what I would have done. Like, I wouldn't have come up with like gelato.
Love it. But I love that. And that's why that's why I had to ask you that, because I love that you were able to decipher that that was not you, but that was your, your spirituality and your meditation kicking in, because so many times we aren't allowing ourselves to hear that. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to figure it out ourselves, especially in crisis mode. Like, let's be honest. We're like, okay, I gotta figure this thing out. I gotta get a solution, right? And we're relying on ourselves to figure it out, when really we need to be doing exactly what you did, which is get quiet, meditate, and let it come from a higher place. So I can so appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that. So, okay, so you got the gelato, and then what?
So we got the gelato, and so my husband, he photographed this chef like 10 years ago at the start of his career, and the guy had a very popular line of gelato. So we call him, and we're like, hey, we're thinking about doing this, would you be able to make it for us? And he said, well, I'm segueing out of this business because this other thing I was working on is blowing up, but like, I can help find you someone. So he helped find us someone that we started with, and they were great, but they are not in DC. So kind of the logistics of getting stuff to them and dropping it off, it just like didn't work. But like, we started with them, and we had to switch to a different chef. But I'm leaving a lot out in the story. That's why I paused, because people are gonna be like, wait, how did it happen? So so fast forward a couple weeks after I had started working with this chef, and we had like our core recipes down. At the time, they were non-alcoholic, because we were just going to kind of do it to people walking by, and we were going to have it for events. So I wasn't even thinking about combining alcohol with it. But when we got shut down, I had like 3-4 months worth of liquor in the venue that I had pre-purchased for these events that had booked. Like, so much liquor just sitting there, so much champagne that was in the bar coolers. And I'm like, I wonder, because I can't sell anything, I can't have events, and I'm not a restaurant, I got to sell something, because
this liquor has got to go.
Yeah, I was like, I'm looking at all of this inventory behind me, and I'm like, this is money just sitting here at this point. So let's take some of these bottles. Let's see if it's even a thing, because I had no idea, like, alcohol infused stuff. So I talked to the chef we had at the time, and he was like, well, I've never personally done it, but we'll figure it out. So we made a few small batches, sold it to family and friends. They loved it. We put a thing on Facebook. We sold out the second week. We made another batch, sold out even faster, to the point where like we couldn't keep up with that demand. So I had to, find another chef who, luckily, he's one of the best on the East Coast, and he just happens to be in DC. So after about, I think, 3 weeks of me like calling, emailing, calling, emailing, calling, emailing me, he was like, fine, just call me tomorrow and we'll talk. And I was able to convince him to make our gelato.
Oh my gosh. That is just, I love that, because basically you guys were like, we're just gonna try this. Like, we're just gonna take this alcohol that is sitting here for events that we cannot have, and we're gonna put them in this gelato and see if it sticks. There's just so much that's so powerful about that. I want to go back to what you said about first, when you even had the thought, you reached out, right? Because I think that's powerful, to reach out, and you did your due diligence of reaching out to somebody who has done it, or who had at least done the gelato part. Because again, when you're going into something new, you don't know what you don't know. So it's like, okay, let us tap into our resources. I think that's such a huge lesson for us, because even though some of us might be jumping into new things, might be pivoting into new things, uncharted territory, we have to remind ourselves that it's like going back to the basics. You still got to reach out to people and reach out to your resources and be okay with that. So there comes that humble pie again, like, yeah, I know I was like banging over here, but
Yeah, I mean, because at our venue, we're strictly a venue. We don't do any catering in house. We don't do anything with food.
right.
So when we were thinking about adding it into the space, we're like, okay, do we need, like, what do we need to do this? Like, what, like, do we need a water line to a sink? Do we need, like, there's all this stuff that goes into it. So
Yes.
luckily, we knew someone in that field, and even though he was exiting, he was able to tell us, like, okay, if you're going to do scoops in person, you have to have this sort of container, and you got to have
Right.
that in your space. So we were already kind of like planning out where to put the gelato in the venue, and then COVID happened. So luckily, I didn't have
Wow.
to invest into that equipment because COVID. No one was
COVID,
going to be
right.
walking into no one was
You're
going to be
like,
walking
well,
into the space
thanks.
for that.
So that is so good. And so you guys you said you started with your family and friends, and then it was a hit with them. So then it picked up some more, and that sold out. And so finally, I mean, at some point you figure out, okay, we got a thing here. Like, this is something. This is not just hey, we're gonna do a lemonade stand this summer, and then
Yeah.
and then we're done. Like, you actually, like, when did you realize you actually had a thing that this could be like a legit growing business that might even be as good, if not better, than what we had with the studio?
So I think so we launched at the end of March, and we started working with our new chef in April, who took all of my concepts and ideas and revamped all of our recipes. And he makes it in a very authentic Italian style. There are like no preservatives, there's nothing bad
Nice.
in it. It's like super, super fresh. So when we
So you
started getting
even
our
thought
new,
about health, which I
yes,
love it.
yes, because I knew at the time, I was like, it's going to take a while to get any government assistance, and
Yeah.
my bank account was running low, and I got a
Yeah.
baby to feed and
Hey,
diapers
that's
to
real,
buy,
right? And you guys had
and
a son. You have a son.
yeah, yeah, and like I can't be messing around. So I literally tracked down the best chef because I could not mess around. I'm like, let me get the best on my team. Like, we'll figure it all out, and then we'll go from there.
It'll work out.
So when we started selling out even faster once he started making our gelato, and we had different restaurants coming to us like wanting to sell it. We had like we got picked up in a couple of local like blogs and newspapers. But the moment I realized we had something was when there's one weekend we had this one couple drive from like Frederick, Maryland, like, and they had coolers in the back of the car, and they're like, yep, I'm gonna get like an 8-pack. They bought 8 packs of gelato, had their ice, put it in the cooler, and drove home. And I'm like, you really drove like 45 minutes to
Right.
buy some gelato? Like, wow, like that blew my
Like,
mind.
they were literally like, this was specific. Like, this was specific. They did this on purpose. Like, they were
Yes,
like, we're getting in the car. We have our cooler so that it does not melt. We are driving to DC to Niko's Spike Gelato, and we are getting this
yes,
gelato and then going back home.
yes, yeah. And that was like huge for me, and I'm like, okay, this is something. So then I made sure we always had dry ice at the venue, and we got thermal bags, so if anyone wanted
Yes.
to like do that. And it kept happening. We have people who literally drive from Manassas and Centerville, and it's mind blowing to me
Yes, yes. Well, I have to confess. I mean, obviously, when I first started out, I was like, I love what I see, because I saw it online and I saw you guys, kind of promoting it and stuff. And I saw that you had kind of made the pivot. And I think it was an article I saw too, where you were talking about it. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to try this out. So I came, and I don't remember if you were there the first time, but I came and I got I think I got one pint. Literally, I was on my way back home. I tried like a scoop before I took off, and then I was on my way, and I was like, I don't think I have enough. So I was like, go back and get some more, because by the time I get home, number one, I'm like, I'm gonna want to eat this myself. I'm not gonna want to share. I'm like, so I think I should get more. So I can identify with the people from Frederick, because literally making a U-turn to go get some more was what I was all about. Because I was like, oh, this is life right here.
Yeah, I think that's what surprises people, because we're so known for like our other businesses. And when they
Yes,
hear gelato, they're like, gelato, and they try it and they're like, this is actually really good. I'm like, I
really
know it's really
good.
good.
You're like, yes, I know. Thank you. That's so good. But you brought up a really good point, which is, you guys were known at that point, you guys were known for Studio 52, right? And I know, as entrepreneurs, sometimes what we worry about is, what are people going to say if I start promoting this other business? Or what are they, how are they going to think about me? Or are they going to think that I'm doing, quote unquote, doing too much, because now I'm promoting gelato when first I was promoting a event venue. So, kind of walk me through, did you have any concerns like that at all when you guys were doing this? And B, what was your thought process in promoting it? Like, were you very strategic about it, or was it like, I don't really care, like, it is what it is?
So I wasn't necessarily worried, I think, because, my husband is known for his photography. I was known for all the different businesses I had. Like, people are kind of used to seeing us come up with different things. So I
Okay.
wasn't concerned about that. But when it came down to like launching a food-based product, I was nervous because I'd never like don't have any experience in that industry. So
Right.
there was a bit of a learning curve, and we had to make sure that we had like proper licensing and all that, which we do. But it was just kind of, am I doing things right? That was my biggest
Right.
concern.
Right. Right. So, so that's a huge lesson, because obviously we waste a lot of energy worrying about what other people are gonna say and what they're gonna think. But I like the fact that you weren't concerned about that at all. You're like, it's what I do. Like, I come up with
Yeah.
new fabulous things all the time.
So I think people were kind of like, it wasn't a surprise that we had launched something new. I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people, it was like, it's a good idea. And I mean, it's the height of the pandemic. Everyone's drinking at that point. So it's
Right.
like, all right, bring on the liquor.
That is so true, right? Because we're all at home. We don't have a lot, we don't have a lot to do. And we're all like, okay, we're over this. And most of the time we're either cooking, like by that time, I think my feed was filled with people cooking,
Mhm.
drinking, or watching movies. Like,
Yes.
and the fact that you were able to take two of those things and combine them, eating and drinking, was like perfect.
Yes, yes. And we had more, I guess, of a built-in kind of list when we first started promoting it, because we had a whole bunch of people who couldn't have their events with us. And we had so many people still putting in inquiries, which blew my mind, because I was like, do you not
Mm,
realize what's happening? Like,
right.
everyone's going to be able to have a wedding on December 31st right now. Are you watching the news? So, and in our autoresponder, we would say, we unfortunately cannot accommodate any events because of, the DC mandate. We have to stay shut
Yeah.
down. But here is an opportunity to celebrate at home with Niko Spite. So that
Oh,
went out
nice.
to our Studio 52 list. It went out to past event clients, and they're like,
Yes.
this is amazing. I can now do this for my husband's birthday. I can now send some
Right.
gelato to my aunt, and we can have a virtual Zoom thing. And
Look
we
at
got a lot
that.
of corporate purchases too, because they wanted
Yeah.
to do virtual client appreciation. So
I mean,
that,
exactly. Like with the team, make it, make it a team party. And
yeah,
I think I love that. I love that. So, I mean, you totally flipped it on its head. And I love the marketing piece. You know, I definitely am a marketing person. So I like to dig into all of that stuff. But I like the way that you guys like just took it and flipped it. Like you can celebrate at home in a very, in a very different way, a little bit more unique, but we can still be a part of your celebration in this way.
yeah,
So that is so awesome. I love that so much. And it's just a reminder, I think, for our audience to realize like we have control, to a degree. We have a control over our destiny and how we are perceived, like how we put things out in the universe, right? Because you guys could have very easily taken what happened with Studio 52 and be like, okay, well, we're gonna kind of pick our tail up and go on home and and call it a day, and maybe go and get a 9 to 5 or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I like the fact that you really were just like, no, we're gonna dig in, and like we said before, like quitting's just not an option. We're gonna dig in and figure out what's next, and you got that, the universe responded, like you got it was like gelato, girl, go make you some gelato, Chelsea.
and that's the part that I absolutely love, because I think if I had doubted that divine idea, like I wouldn't have been able to build this so fast, because I got the idea at the beginning of February and there was like no COVID concerns, and I was able to do the research, find the chef, kind of pair the initial stuff together. So when we did get shut down, I was ready to go for the most
Yes.
part.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It was like you really didn't miss a beat. And I think that's
Yeah.
what was so enthralling to me, because I'm like, I literally probably looked at your page one day and you were talking about Studio 52. And then the next day I saw you eating some gelato and I was like, what is that? So I love that about you. And just the overall how you guys have handled it. Now, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention or ask you how you came to the name Niko's Spiked Gelato, because there is a devastatingly little handsome guy over there that I always get to see, and he is just so adorable. So tell us why you decided to go with that name, so that all the audience knows.
Sure. So when we first launched it, it was actually named Spike by Studio 52, because we
Oh,
thought it was going to be it was going to live inside the venue and it wasn't going to
right.
ever be separate from it. But I think after the fourth time we sold out, I was like, this is a brand. I need to change the name. I need to kind of make it its own business, its
Its
own
own
entity, get it its
thing.
own licensing. And then we were like, what do we name it? What do we name it? And we kept looking at Niko, who was one at the time. And Drew was like, let's name it Niko's. And I was like, I love that. And for me, it became a way to not be able to fail, because it's in my son's
Mm,
name. And I'm literally like working so hard for him,
yeah,
trying to make this work in a pandemic for him. So it's like a constant reminder, like I literally can't fail. It's my
yeah.
son's name.
Yes, yes, I love it. It's like, no, there is no failure, because this is, a part of your legacy, and hopefully one day a part of his too, as he gets older. So I just love that. And that's why we mamas do what we do, girl. We're
Yes.
just like, you know what, I can't fail. Like these kids are watching, which they really are. And it's a beautiful thing. So okay, so with that being said, give us one as we kind of close out here. Give, our audience is watching. We got a lot of people on. Irene, hey Irene, Sarah. And so give us one piece of advice, for those who are still out here and they're still trying to figure out what the next step is, because let's be honest, I mean, we still are in a pandemic. We are glad to see that we're making strides to hopefully come out on the other end of this with the vaccine now being, being given, but we still got a lot of ways to go. And so for those who are still trying to figure out their next step or figure out how to pivot, how to shift, or just how to kind of tap into that divine, that divine thought of where do I go from here? What would you tell them? What piece of advice would you give them?
I always like to tell people to kind of quiet your mind, whether that is through meditation, do meditation, whether that is, working out. Some people get a lot of amazing ideas when they're going for a run or they're in the shower, but whatever environment you need to put yourself in so you can quiet your mind and kind of like tune your own voice out so you can hear the divine, do that. And I have like 17 years of yoga practice, so I can quiet my mind and hear stuff faster.
Do you really?
Yes. Yes. I was a very, very much lifelong yogi thus far, but that's a whole different conversation.
That's okay. We'll just have to have a sidebar on that.
Yes. So I have, a long practice with this. So I know I can go into a meditative space and in 5 minutes, I can know what my next step is going to be. But for someone just practicing, it's going to take longer to build that trust and to kind of know, is this my intuition? Is this my fear? Is this my ego? Like there's a lot of different factors, but just to put yourself in a space where you can get calm and you can get quiet and you can allow yourself to think. Because I think we have so much noise now, especially in the pandemic. We always have a screen in front of our face, like we're tired, we're drained. Like you just need to be able to recharge and just see what feels right for you. So if it's starting something new, start something new. If it's just doesn't feel right to start something new at this time and you want to continue doing what you're doing, then do that. But it has to feel right. And it almost feels like it's like a hell yes. Like when you get the idea, it's like, yes. Like that's how you know. But if you kind of hear something and you're like, I don't know, that's probably not what it is. But it's something that's going to feel so exciting. Like Christmas morning is what I used to always tell my yoga students. It feels like Christmas morning when it's that divine idea and you just know it is.
Yes, I love that. I love the hell yeah, because I'm like, yes, like that's literally the feeling, the feeling that I get when I know it's not me. I always say that if it's flowing, it's not, it's not me. If it's forced, then it's usually me. So so that is so good. Thank you for that, Chelsea. Okay, so to close us out, I got my 5 rapid fires. So these are 5 questions. I never share them with my guests, but you just got to answer whatever comes off the top of your head, then you just let it roll, okay? Y'all know I'm not responsible for anything that they say. So
I am ready.
All right, here we go. What do you like to do for fun?
Well, everything's shut down now. So right now it would be just relaxing with my husband and watching a nice movie on Netflix.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, what's one stereotype about moms or women that drives you bananas?
It's that we aren't as committed and maybe we're not going to get a lot of stuff done, like, or we're going to show up and like constantly be a hot mess like that.
All right, like, no, we get it done. We get it done. All right, who's your BFF in your head?
My BFF in my head, oh, that's a good one. I don't really know. Like I follow so many people online, but I'm like, I don't know who I'd be.
Yeah, top one. Come on. You can do it.
Oh my goodness. I have to say, I really don't know.
No?
Part of me is like kind of leaning towards Oprah. Like I'd love to hang out with Oprah, but I don't really know.
Okay, we'll go with Lady O. Look, I think we all want to make Lady O our friend at some point. What do you dream of becoming?
I dream and desire to constantly be the best version of myself. It's not like I want to be CEO of this. It's just I just want to be true to myself and realize my potential.
That's good. That's so good. And I definitely second that. Favorite song and why?
I think I would say probably a couple of, the first thing that popped in my head was George Michael, Careless Whisper, because my husband's a huge George Michael fan. And whenever that comes on, he just starts like singing. And if you know my husband, he's very charismatic. So it's always, it's so nice to see. We have
That's
so much
so
fun.
nice. I love it. It has sentimental value. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Chelsea, tell everyone where they can find you, how they can stay connected. And also, I know you have a very special treat for the audience as far as a little something that will help them take advantage of grabbing some Niko Spike Gelato. Y'all, if you do not go get this, and let them know that you ship to Chelsea, because I believe, I hope I'm not misspeaking, but you guys ship as well. If you guys do not try this gelato, you are literally missing out on a slice of life, okay? So you really need to try it because it is amazing. So tell them where they can find you at.
Thank you for that plug. I couldn't have said it better myself. But you can go to www.nikosgelato.com, and that's Nikos gelato.com. We do ship right now to the East Coast. We're working on, shipping more towards the Midwest and West Coast in the next couple months. But you guys will also get 15% off when you use the code Eventful. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Nikos Gelato. My personal account is at Chelsea Xeron with an X. And I'm excited to connect with you guys.
Yes, yay. So there you have it. You guys make sure you follow Chelsea, connect with her. She's just, you already see she is a wealth of information and so warm and friendly and always, inviting, which is another reason why I just love you dearly. But thank you, Chelsea. Thank you for being here with us. We're going to have, so just so you guys know, we're going to do some girl chatting over on IG Live. So those of you who want to join us, meet us over there in about 2 minutes, because we're going to kind of dig a little bit deeper and do a little kikiing in the process. But thank you guys for joining us for another episode of The Eventful Life. I love having you guys in this space, and thank you for allowing me to share this space and this time with you each week. I do not take it for granted because I know there are a million other things you could be doing. But remember, my friends, you can have it all. It is just on your terms and your time. So until next week, I will see you then. And thank you guys once again. Have a great week.